Two emergency service workers are charged with first-degree murder after a man died following transport to a hospital. The Sangamon County State's Attorney's Office in Illinois says Peter Cadigan and Peggy Finley responded to the home of Earl Moore Jr. on December 18th at the request of Springfield police.
Oh no! Oh no!
After review of investigative materials, I've classified Mr. Moore's death as a homicide.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Out of Service Podcast. This is a new branded version brought to you by Beyond the Sirens, and we are going to have a lot of fun shenanigans in store. We're going to talk about a lot of cool topics, and we're going to talk about all different kinds of things, and we're happy that you're going to be along for the ride. What you saw there in the beginning was a basic, classic presentation of play stupid games, win stupid prizes. We're going to talk about the aspects of dealing with bad apples in the first responder community, what we think about it, also so you can know as a general public that we don't tolerate that kind of behavior. We're going to react to that video in its entirety. We're going to talk about other things, but first we want to introduce these crazy band of misfits, and so we'll start with the guy in first chair, Mark.
Howdy, guys. How you doing? It's Mark. I'm a paramedic out in Jersey, hanging in here with you guys at Beyond the Sirens. Cheers. We are the Out of Service Podcast. We're going to be running through a bunch of videos, and we're going to have a good time. We're going to enjoy it. There's going to be some dark humor, but that's just how we roll, and we're going to keep it rolling. Next to me over here is...
My name's Evan. Just like Mark, I work in New Jersey. EMT firefighter. Not really the brightest in the bunch, but I like breaking things, and I'm pretty good at it. So... you know, it's going to be a great time, and howdy.
We're going to roll through our first video of the day, which is our body cam footage. Back in 2022, December of 2018, there was a call for a alcohol withdrawal gentleman. He was eventually put prone on the stretcher and unfortunately deceased due to being prone on the stretcher and restricted related to. We're going to look and watch the body cam footage. We're going to pause and react to it as we go. And we're going to see what could be done better, what we can learn from it.
Okay, so as we're seeing here, the dispatches come in, they're responding to the call, and, kind of just nothing really to write home about here, kind of standard, typical kind of actions going on here at this point. So we'll kind of fast forward it up a little bit so they can get to the house, make contact, right? So you see officer is going to be kind of maybe peeking through the window, seeing if you can see any activity, probably, for safety reasons and things like that. And then they're going to make but listen very carefully what you're going to hear right here.
Having alcohol withdrawals. I don't want this problems here. I just moved into this house. Like I don't need this. Okay. My landlord lives
So as you can tell, it is being stated that there is alcohol withdrawal. So right out the gate, we're being told alcohol withdrawal. So at least that is a high suspicion, clinical suspicion, but the police don't know that, right? Because they're not medical, but that is what the initial, what we're being told. So it really helps us out because we don't have to necessarily do as much investigating and trying to dig into it because we're given it right outright. Yeah. So
definitely us on the medical side. If we hear alcohol withdrawal, we're thinking when's their last drink, their ultimate mental status, what's going on with this situation. These are police officers and they're being told alcohol withdrawal. So they already know a little bit of ultimate mental status and that they're going to need a medical. They're doing good so far. Let's continue.
Well, if you want us to come in and talk to him, we'd be more than happy. Where's he at?
He's in his bedroom on the way back.
Do you know where you're at right now, man?
Home.
Doing some neurological assessments now.
You know where home is?
Nice relaxing music.
North 25th.
yeah, I mean, you definitely got kind of that lo-fi going on.
For everybody here, but you're now on North 25th. You know who the president is?
I always hate that as a orientation question.
Sometimes they'll be able to give you the answer by just rolling their eyes because they're not really a big fan of that person. So you already know what they already know the answer. They don't have to tell you.
Can you give us that?
That's funny.
And you can kind of hear he sounds a little bit winded.
Sounds a little bit winded. He's actually answering these questions correctly, apparently. However, he's a little bit slow to respond. He is a little altered, but he is alert and oriented ×4.
You're going to see some interesting and very common characteristics with this particular phenomenon as we progress.
Looks like you're having some kind of problem. Very peaceful music.
And as the comment of the peaceful music. But listen very carefully in the background.
Who's that female out there? Who is she to you? Family?
These police officers do sound very patient.
You, man. She said
They sound very sympathetic a little bit, as much as they can be. They're doing well so far. They're being nice, relaxed, they're not agitating, and they're not escalating the situation.
It's messing you up real bad right now. How long did he drink?
All right, so he's up, he's moving.
Listen to him breathe and just look at him. Sick versus not sick, ladies and gentlemen. Ask yourself, look at him. I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to look at this gentleman and say something's not right. And
can you get some water? He's sweating like crazy.
He's sick.
He's going through alcohol withdrawal.
But you just keep saying that. Alcohol withdrawal. It's dead giveaway. The high index of suspicion, not something we have to go search for. It's not the hidden chest pain that people aren't talking about. It's not the hidden injury. It's just flat out there. This is an alcohol withdrawal call.
I would imagine if he...
So for any of you ladies and gentlemen, we all know, for the most part, alcohol is a central nervous system depressant. It's going to be a downer. It's going to slow the nervous system down. So when we're talking about this from a medical perspective, it is a GABAergic. It increases the GABAergic neurotransmission. So if you're not sure what that means, and that's a bunch of mumbo jumbo, just think of the GABA as the brakes and glutamate, which is another neurotransmitter, as the gas. And so you have signals being sent across the neurons going from place to place, and it get, like a train track. GABA slows that neurotransmission down right when it's getting it to its destination so it can be received and interpreted correctly. However, if there's too much glutamate or too much GABA, we get that pendulum swinging too far. So if we get too much GABA neurotransmission, the brakes it's all brakes, no gas. Everything slows down so much. And now we start getting the amnesia. We start getting the confusion, the altered mental status, and all of those things, right? The glutamate is an excitotoxic, a neurotransmission excitatory that will actually be the gas. So it's going to floor it through that axon to the terminal to be received. So that's just kind of a little bit background there with the alcohol. And when we stop that, we are now upregulating and downregulating those two, and the body has gotten so used to, especially in alcohol, chronic alcohol usage, to certain ways that those receptors were upregulated and downregulated, and now all of a sudden the body has now gone without that, and so the brain and nervous system is completely in chaos.
Yeah, which is why our treatment usually includes a benzodiazepine and some fluids. They're usually electrolyte imbalance as well. We can give some thiamine. We can give 1 milligram of Ativan along with some fluids, and we just monitor transport. We supportive care in route to the hospital, some compassion, a little bit more patience for these types of calls. What do you have, Evan?
I'm just going to say, from a very basic standpoint, you can walk in there and just start talking to him and tell that something just isn't right. Yeah. If we hadn't have been told upon walking in that it was alcohol, it would already be sending up red flags, even as a non-alcohol medical perspective. Just hearing the way that he's talking, the way that he's breathing, that this guy's sick. And,
even if they weren't even saying the alcohol withdrawal, with his a little bit of altered mental status, his slurred speech, and a little bit of prolonged time to answering questions, and his difficulty breathing, we would think that he was drunk. To be honest, not even the fact that he's not having the alcohol, the fact that we think that he has had too much.
But right out of the gate, ladies and gentlemen, check this out. Right, alcohol withdrawal. Obviously, if most of us didn't know, I think we can all deduce this is a medical phenomenon that produces psychological symptoms, psychiatric symptoms. Psychiatric symptoms are just part of the piece of the puzzle. It is not the entirety. It is not psychiatric in nature. It is medical in nature, because all of this thing, like we're talking about the neurotransmitters, we're talking about the body is in complete disarray, and you're going to get symptoms all over the place, such as headache, insomnia, nausea, vomiting, anxiety, seizures, visual and auditory tactile hallucinations, and the list continues going. Tachycardia and hypertension and tremors. I mean, it's a long list of alcohol withdrawal. So when that lady walked to the door and said, "This is what he's got," it seems like she's quite aware of the situation, and therefore, we have to treat it as such. Until and we're not really the ones to make that ultimate underlying decision of whether or not it's fake or not, because if the patient is presenting this way, you, like they say, right, treat your patient. And if your patient is presenting with all of these symptoms and clinical presentation, then we need to treat it, as such.
Yes, exactly. So now we're gonna cut over to when the medic arrives, and we're gonna see what's going on there. Okay.
Trying.
Oh, actually, before we do say that, I will say that when the cops arrived and the woman met them at the door, they said that they just moved here recently. So I know a lot of times we get complacent with these frequent flyers. We get complacent with these frequent ETOHs, and we think, oh, that's their only problem. We're not going to do a full assessment. We're just going to treat them and eat them, right? We're going to throw them in the back of their ambulance. We're going to take them over to the hospital. They're going to try and be as little as combative as possible, take them over to the hospital and deal with it. They just recently moved here, so any bias that we see is just plain pure on the providers.
Thinking that having people around would help.
Yeah.
All right, so this is now the paramedic is now on scene with the 3 cops. She is standing there. I don't know where the partner is.
Slowly stripping off of his clothes.
Our patient is now on the floor as well.
What was his last name? Moore? 35, was born in March, but we don't have an exact.
We're gonna go ahead and censor that later.
Hey, which birthday?
She's like 90.
It sounds like someone having trouble breathing. Someone who's in distress. But Earl, sit up is the first one of the few things that she says. She's not playing, ladies and gentlemen. You heard it here.
Quit acting stupid.
Quit acting
Sit
stupid.
up. Sit up. Now.
This lady is a bundle of joy.
I am not playing with you tonight. Sit up. What is your birthday?
So again, ladies and gentlemen, this condition, this issue as a result of alcohol withdrawal can produce confusion. And see, the thing is you may have heard where they said, oh, he was answering questions a little bit better earlier. And so then it may have given the paramedic the initial impression, oh, well, then now he's just playing a bunch of games. But the thing about this is this is not a monomorphic, and a lot of diseases aren't necessarily monomorphic, meaning it's not just going to be it's going to stay at a certain level and intensity the entire time. You're thinking this person's body, and we don't know how long that they've been in alcohol withdrawal. Could it have been like in the first couple of days? Are they on the back end of it? We don't know this information. However, this concept that, oh, well, they were talking to the police, however long ago, and so that means they should be able to comply with me, when we know about alcohol withdrawal. And if we didn't know before, we know now, it causes causes hallucinations, causes your reality to be distorted and completely not what it is. And therefore you're not going to interpret your environment the way that it should be. So This person is clearly having a problem, and it's kind of ebbing and flowing and waxing and waning and getting stronger and probably more intense, depending upon a lot of different factors. But this medic is already walking out of the gate with a disrespect, with an aggressive tone, or a tone that is not that of one to de-escalate. Like the police, they came in, they showed concern, they showed some compassion about his situation, regardless of if he was quote unquote faking it or not. And the paramedic came in, and you can clearly see the contrasts of the tone of voice, the attitude. She's clearly not having it, and not a defense whatsoever. But obviously you get some of these patients you go to all the time, and Mark, right? I mean, but any of you
all the time,
right?
I remember we used to have a urban outdoorsman, and we would attribute him to a old TV show that he would be a kindly neighbor. We would call him Mr. Rogers. He was a nice gentleman, and he was always ETOH. However, we did our due diligence. We treated him as if it was anyone else. We assessed him, we transported him, we treated him with dignity, and we treated him as a person, as everyone should. If this was in fact a frequent flyer, because I know in the past with our frequent flyer, who we nicknamed Mr. Rogers, we would have the chart as far as demographics done prior to arriving on scene. This paramedic is asking this patient, "What's your birthday? What's your birthday?" Obviously not frequent flyer enough that you don't know that information already. 1. 2, you have an altered mental status patient on scene. You're not going to do your assessment as far as blood sugar, heart rate, blood pressure, oxygen saturation. Altered mental status, you got to go through the AEIOU tips. Any environmental, any intoxication, any toxins, any alcohol, any stroke. Those are things that go through my mind anytime I see an altered mental status patient. We're going to be doing our due diligence. I think that this paramedic is going through confirmation bias. She didn't fully hear alcohol withdrawal. She heard alcohol, thinks this patient is drunk, and is just impatient and not dealing with the situation properly at all.
And so check this out, right? So what did you, if you rewind it, you don't have to do that, but if you rewind it yourself and you listen a little carefully, you hear the police say he's taking off his clothes. Well, one of the things that is a component of alcohol withdrawal syndrome is elevated body temperature. Their autonomic nervous system is now, because it's like a generalized nervous system complete overload, because now they're getting a just ramped up, everything's excitatory because we've been dampening it. We've been putting the brakes on the nervous system. And now basically you just rip the brakes out the car and floored it. And now you can't stop it. And so this person's got elevated body temperature, right? And so if this paramedic even if the person came in with the clinical suspicion that this person's faking it, it's all psychiatric, it's not really alcohol withdrawal syndrome, how could she have ruled that out? As Mark alluded to, checking blood pressure, checking vital signs, internal CO2, starting to get an actual quantitative and quantitative analysis, objective evidence to prove or disprove, count in or count out, what's your differential. So maybe your differential is psych, and then underneath is other things. That's not inappropriate in the sense of a medical perspective. However, walking in with a clipboard and the attitude, that's all she brings.
Yeah, with
and
no
she also
monitor
has
and relying purely on subjective view.
And she asks, by the way, if we continue to watch, you will see this lady has a secret weapon that she will deploy, and it will be it's probably one of the best weapons a paramedic can have on their person. We'll talk about it. But, right, good science, good, being a good clinician is going, okay, I have a clinical suspicion of A. If it's psych, it's psych. However, how do I disprove it or prove it? If there's medical going on, and this person truly is having this medical phenomenon of acute withdrawal syndrome, then what alcohol withdrawal syndrome, what I can do blood pressure. And if I see like elevated blood pressure, I see they're diaphoretic. I see pupillary changes. I see other things, then I'm going to go, wait a minute. Okay. My initial assumption might be incorrect. And I have to treat this a little bit more tenderly and carefully, because I might be contending with true withdrawal syndrome. And then you're going to approach your care differently and augment it appropriately. So that's just my 2 cents in that regard, because you got to be careful when we're dealing with especially the key word is here. The very first thing that they said in the very beginning was he has A, B, and C. He has withdrawal syndromes, or he's having withdrawals. So therefore, that should be something you should be going in there and working that up with that assumption, because your complacency, as we all know, will kill. So if you treat this same type of patient or the same patient who may have been kind of, maybe overreacting or being psych 29 times out of 30, but you go on that 30th time and it's really legit, and you treat it as all those 29 times prior, that's it. That's when we get nipped. That's when we get bit by this situation. And then it can have dire detrimental consequences, not only to the patient, most importantly, but then yourself, your career, and professionally and personally too, because then you're going to have a lot of regrets potentially. If you're, a semi-decent human being, you're going to sit there and think, man, I really messed this up. And that's going to stick with you for a very long time.
And Evan, So being a basic provider and showing up, and I know Jersey is different than a lot of states where we have 2 EMTs on an ambulance, we have 2 medics showing up, post either you guys request or depending on the complaint being dispatched prior. Paramedics, we have the luxury of having the monitor, bringing it in, having blood glucose. I know soon you guys are going to have your glucometer as well. What are you initially looking at when you have this altered mental status? You have a family member saying alcohol withdrawal. What's going through your mind there?
So first of all, I just want to say, where's my partner?
I called for help twice, and not a "fuck you, what do you need" or nothing.
My partner in here whatsoever, and at the end of the day, I can come into a call and know that maybe I have a rapport with this person. I've seen them before, and I can be a little bit more forceful in my words. The moment that something starts to change and I'm looking at this and saying, oh, this patient is not reacting the way that they usually do. He's a little diaphoretic. I can already see that. There's something going on here. Where's my partner, number one? Where's my gear, number 2? Where's my bag? Where's my blood pressure cuff? Where's my pulse ox? Where's any of the basic things that I can do to assess the patient? And I'm probably going to get a set of vitals.
No lies
person is not acting appropriately. I would kind of like to know what's going on, so that if there is an issue with this patient, not only can I call medics out, but I can also get the ball rolling and saying, okay, he has alcohol withdrawal, or he's drunk, one of the two, he's not acting appropriately, and even though I've seen this person before, and I don't know how common, this patient is with these medics specifically.
Well, apparently, according to the family member, they just recently moved into this house.
There's a lot going on here that the math is just not adding up. It's just if this is your 20th time with somebody, that would be one thing, but this is probably either your first couple of times seeing this person, especially if you're asking, like somebody mentioned, for their date of birth and name and yada yada. There's just a lot going on that should not be, and this is all just basic stuff you should not be doing.
And I also get it. I mean, so this body cam is showing 2:20 in the morning. Like sometimes if the tones go out and it's past like 1 in the morning, 2, 3 in the morning, the patient that I'm going to has a better GCS than I do.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
I
still,
can't even argue that.
I'm gonna treat the patient with dignity and treat them like a patient. It doesn't matter if it's my 12th call, 15th call of the night. I'm going to treat them like it's my first patient there. They are separate from everything else because, it's their emergency. It's not mine. This is my 9 to 5. This is normal for me. It's time to go in there, do my job, and check to see what's going on.
Yep.
Yeah.
No loss detected here. And from a BLS perspective, I mean, right, if you're an EMT watching this, if you're even, EMT basic, and this, think of your patient assessment. Go back to your patient assessment, right? What is the first thing you're doing after, you're, like, as he mentioned, requesting additional resources? I might need ALS for this situation. You can always cancel them if you find out it's kind of like not really that big a deal, but it's always good to have them on the way. And then the first things that we do is we're checking our LOC and our general impression of the situation, and we're checking our LOC, and we're finding out something's not right here in his airway. You can hear in his breathing, it's kind of labored, like he's having some trouble. Circulation, he's diaphoretic. So right out of the gate, if you're just even playing if you're at EMT school and you're listening to this or whatever, you're already starting to see that there's some things that are red flags here that need to be addressed. And regardless if it is truly an alcohol intoxication versus an alcohol withdrawal syndrome, that doesn't mean you suddenly regulate what kind of compassion they get depending on what circumstances. If it's medical, okay, we'll give them compassion. If it's psychiatric, then suddenly we change how they get treated, and that's not right at all. Because if you picture, having some empathy and putting yourself in that situation, in those shoes, and you were in a bad way, you fell in some bad circumstances, whatever the case may be, and you needed, sometimes compassion is just really the big thing we need in that some of those search situations.
Yeah.
March 22nd. March 22nd.
What year?
87.
So now the cops are assisting with the lifting.
Yeah.
I got your coat. Come on.
And actually, so I will say this, the cops are assisting with lifting because, there's a saying that goes when you become a paramedic, that ALS means ain't lifting shit.
Nope, we're not doing that.
Yes, sir.
Only way we're gonna get you is if we walk to the house. Come on, Earl. You're not dead weight. Maybe we are. All right.
And look at that medic, right? Not picking her head up, not even looking at the situation. Yeah. She's just like, look at her, kind of throwing her hands up, attitude, resting B face all day long.
To the hospital, man. You got to help us out a little bit.
So my question too is, what drunk have you guys ever presented? Somebody who's actively drunk. Like I haven't seen a lot of drunks that act like this.
I've had a few. I have had a few drunks act like this, but that's more so when they're closer to alcohol poisoning and they're like being somnolent. Like not just like if you're just like wine drunk, then you're a little more fun. I can have a little bit more comedic grace with you guys, and we move on. But he's not even able to function.
What are we going to go to? St. John's.
Come on.
And again, how long has she been on scene? Not a single vital sign has been taken.
There you go. There you go.
No way to confirm or, rule out what her initial suspicion is. So she's immediately walking in with a bias and an immediate assumption of something and not even willing to be a good clinician and confirm it, rule it in, rule it out.
Yeah. And
just automatic assumptions.
And I know we go, ABC, ambulate before carry, but thinking about the tools that we have, the methods that we have for moving a patient safely, we have the stair chair. Look at that. He just fell. He almost hit his head.
Almost hit his head, ladies and gentlemen, and then we would have dealt with an entirely separate situation instead of, if he's quote unquote faking it, you know how easy it is to solve the situation, 2-person carry, get him out to the stretcher and then and you don't have to deal with all of this, but look at him.
And we have so many resources on our units to carry somebody, and it honestly just seems like there's a lot of laziness going on. There's a lot of, I don't want to deal with this at 2 a.m. and I'm gonna have the cops carry this person, where nothing against police officers whatsoever, but when it comes to patient care, sometimes they're not best resource to use as the sole way of transporting somebody to a stretcher.
I will also say that actually, depending on the department, since it's a medical call, if they get injured while they're attempting to help you lift, they're not covered under workman's comp because that's outside of their job description.
So also, if you're not in EMS and you're just like a person kind of watching this because you're interested in this stuff, they're painting an illusion that like all they have at their disposal is the police and whatever. But we've got some tools, even in a BLS unit, that can really make this very easy for them. They don't have to deal with all of this. It doesn't matter if the patient's psych and they're not cooperating. It doesn't matter if the patient is truly having a medical emergency. What I mean by that is we can just completely ameliorate this entire, kind of song and dance by just going, okay, we can get a stair chair. We can get a mega mover, which is also basically a big tarp that you put them on that's got a bunch of handles.
Or even we can get the Reeves, because this patient seems like they're not even able to sit up and maintain their own body weight. Like yes, the stair chair is something that I mainly go to because it's nice and easy. It's a chair. It has the treads. Great. But this patient's already on the floor. Throw them on the reeves. Secure them properly. Carry them out. You know what? A lot of our providers, we don't focus on physical health, and we need to that's your workout for the night. How about there? Free gym.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, and I think that way too many providers are way too quick to kind of take the easy way out when thinking long term about this patient specifically. Putting the patient on the reeves and carrying them right out to the stretcher is a infinitely better idea.
Your call would have been done in 10 minutes. We are 20 minutes in. We are 20 minutes into this video. The call would have been done in 10 minutes.
It's ridiculous. How many times me and Joel and I, my old paramedic partner when I was an EMT basic, we would 2-person carry just about dang near everybody unless there was spinal or some sort of extra special precautions. We would go in and snatch and grab, baby. Yeah. We go in and go and that is an approved method. Like as long as you're supporting the head, supporting the neck, we can go in there, snatch them up, put them on the stretcher, and that way, especially elderly people who are just like so weak and frail. It's not like anything disrespectful. It is truly just a way to quickly achieve the goal, get them out of that environment, more into your dojo, into your environment, the back of your ambulance where we can start working. The 2-person carries.
That back of the ambulance is my office. I'll see you in my office.
Yeah, I'll see exactly. So, and office hours started just now. So,
but we will emphasize the fact that that's you and your partner. We've only seen one provider so far.
See, and folks, screaming like, "Where's my partner?"
These are 2 paramedics, not even 1 medic, 1 EMT, or 2 EMTs. These are 2 ALS level provider paramedics.
And also paramedic, and it doesn't mean to say that as any sort of demeaning way towards EMT basics, because in fact, EMT basics should be able to recognize this as a problem too. This is nothing that's like, this is nothing like, high level doctor level stuff. This is like sick versus not sick.
Not even from a medical provider standpoint. This is from a human standpoint. He's not able to take care of himself. Treat him like a human. Get him to the hospital. A regular human could look at this patient and go, there's something wrong here.
Exactly. So couldn't said it better.
Hold up. Wait a minute. Something ain't right.
Hold on. Wait a minute.
It's number one, where's my partner? The only way that I can see it being, I guess, okay that my partner isn't in there is if I specifically told my partner to wait outside. And that is a completely different problem entirely. There should be no reason why my partner is hanging out outside, not doing anything, unless I'm telling them to do that. And why would I be telling them to do that? Because now I'm seeing this patient is sick. Like, okay, buddy, might need you to get in here, and they might see something that I don't. So,
here, buddy, we don't want to do that, but
pay attention to that wonderful porcupine in the corner. There it is.
The emergency chapstick.
Oh man, I'm glad I carry mine too, because I mean that's probably everybody in the comment section. Do you have do you carry chapstick on you?
You can't have them dry lips.
No, her needs are more important, apparently.
Now I understand the help me help you. Oh, it's not the partner. Help me help you situation, but not pick him up.
And again, like we were talking about, this is a polymorphic thing. This thing is going to ebb and flow, get worse, get better as their brain is trying to adjust to what's happening to it. It's like, whoa, hey, hold up, wait a minute, right? It's literally that for real, right? This patient, his brain is literally it's just like, what's happening to me? Like I was used to this certain thing and now it's not. Neurotransmitters and receptors are losing their mind.
And so here we do have the partner outside. I slowed it down a little bit, but I just want you to look at these Air Force gloves right here. Look, ready? Look at him. He's got his hands in his pocket. He's got those Air Force gloves on.
I mean, not a whole lot of assistance that this gentleman does.
I can't get you there if you don't get on the cot.
And we also want to just mention, right, the police are not medical personnel. Like, they do not, they have basic stop the bleed, you know, Narcan and all that kind of stuff. So this expectation that they should know better or whatever like that is, you know what, this is the time where we can say the police did more by far. They went in there, they checked his, you know, do you know where you're at? They did more medical than the lady that was medical, which was freaking bananas, ladies and gentlemen.
They did a neurological assessment. They determined what the cause of the issue was, and they did their assessment. And when we show up on scene as paramedics or as EMTs, we are the higher level medical authority at that time. The cops are hand off. They're like, you know what? You tell me what you need to do, and I will get it done. They are the muscle. They are the hands. They will get it done. But you are the medical professional, and you need to take charge of that scene.
Yeah, and the police are like, you know, a lot of times they're just like waiting for us to get there and like, oh, thank gosh, you guys are here, and then like you can kind of guide them, but there was no guidance. She sat there and did some probably doodle on her doodle pad. She put out her emergency, you know, chapstick, got that on, made sure that was good, but there was very limited, other than the disrespect she gave to the patient. There was little, actually zero, any assist to the police on how to maybe approach this patient safety, lifting and all that sort of thing. But the you know, kudos. I just want to make sure we clarify that the police did way more. That guy who's sitting there, the medic with his hands in his pockets, the lady with the emergency, you know, her emotional support chapstick. At the end of the day, the police brought more to the table than the medics did by far. So I just want to make sure we clarify that.
And that plays to why the cops were not charged anything criminal, and that the paramedic providers were charged with, I believe, second-degree murder. I got to double check on that. First-degree murder. Wow. You know what? Because they knew better, and they're going. If you're gonna win, you take it all, right? These Type A personalities. Yep.
EMT basics. Remember ethics, paramedic. Remember our ethics. 101 in class. What do they say? Gross negligence. You have a duty to act. She did. He did. They had a breach of duty. They did. They broke that. There was harm or there was actual injury as a result of it. There was. They had gross negligence, because if you set any one of us or anybody else out there with a half of a brain on that stand as an expert witness, nobody will ever say that this is how you approach it. If you would have to be out of your freaking mind to say that this in any way, shape, or form is how we are taught in school, and how the top of, like, the best way to approach this situation.
So we're also 30-40 minutes into watching this video that we've been pausing and going back and forth with, and the actual incident that caused the death of this patient hasn't even occurred yet. We've already seen so much gross negligence that led up to the fact, and we're going to see shortly what ended up being the demise of this patient, and how these paramedics killed this patient. And
stand up. Stand up.
Wait. Sorry. This just makes my blood boil.
This is getting a little silly, man. Yeah. There you go.
Stop it. Get some help.
There we go.
Just throwing him on.
Like he's just some kind of rag doll. And then watch the straps. Watch how much effort
not even
and force
that.
he puts
So right now
straps.
he's on the stretcher. Right?
Yep.
He's currently on the stretcher.
And on the stretcher, face down and prone, by the way. And
Yeah, I
if
don't like that whatsoever.
We never
need to
transport
it's not.
prone.
No.
The only time that was ever played around with was during COVID, but there was a medical reason, and it had to have been like pre-planned. It's not something that you just do. If you remember anatomy of our lungs, we have more surface area of our lungs than our posterior aspect of our lungs. So therefore, if you lay them prone, you are actually distributing the fluid away from the larger surface area of there. So you're actually freeing up alveoli, freeing up gas exchange, and they were trying to play around with that as a way to stave them off of the ventilator, so that if we put them prone, gave them all the treatments and all that stuff, maybe we don't have to tube them. So it was another effort. But again, it's still very difficult to try to transport somebody prone, even for a medical purpose. It's because you got to try to monitor breathing, you got to monitor respirate, the depth, quality, effort, all of that stuff. And when you can't see them, and it creates a barrier that even if you have no choice, and that is how it has to be, you have to be eyes like a hawk, watching that patient, assessing and reassessing. In this case, every 5 minutes, right? If you're ground level, this person is not. And again, they don't even know what his vitals are. For all they know, his vitals could be through the roof, or he could be hypovolemic.
His sugar
they
could
don't
be
even
20.
know what it is.
His sugar could be 20. And
they
so,
have no
so
idea.
even when proning those patients, they're not restricting the actual increase of that thoracic pressure. They're not putting straps on his back and tightening it to where he can't breathe in. And you're going to see shortly, he's hitting it.
Yeah. Yeah, watch. You're supposed to be able to put like 2 fingers in between. This guy sends it to the moon.
And it almost seems like he's worried about the patient being combative. This patient is somnolent, almost in a coma.
Oh, see that? He's cinching him down like hard, like he's driving his weight in there, and that's a big old boy. And I'm gonna tell you right now, that guy has not once acted combative. He's not once been violent. He's not once he's not given any impression that he is gonna. Granted, you still keep in the back of your mind that somebody can be they can go combative. However, this entire encounter, he has not demonstrated one time that he is going to be dangerous. So this I'm gonna, and so what they basically did is, right, when if I give you a big bear hug and hold you there long enough, and I have had a particular case of positional asphyxia where I saw, unfortunately, it was at the hands of the corrections department. We got called specifically to the prison, and it was for originally an unresponsive patient. And then we get there, and all I'd see is a stylet of a ET tube come flying out the window because fire had already dropped the tube. Good for them. They got a first pass. But this guy was now in cardiac arrest, and he was a young gentleman, so none of it added up. And everyone was being super sketchy. Like, they didn't want to give us a lot of information of how this all transpired. He's handcuffed to the wall, and it's just very strange. And there's a bunch of dudes in body armor. Again, this is not to bash, but I will call you out no matter if you're quote unquote one of us, because we will root those bad apples out. You're not one of us, because that's not what one of us would do. So therefore, if you are going to betray your Hippocratic oath and do no harm, then I don't want nothing to do with it. Be gone with you. And you're not one of us. You have been shunned and excommunicated from our group, because we want to demonstrate to the community that we're not all like that. And we actually are taught techniques and strategies to prevent this from happening. And at any point, if they were concerned, they always had an eject button, by the way. They could have called medical direction. Hey, we got this guy. We don't know what to do. We're a bit lost. Help us out. Then the medical director is going to go do A, B, and C. And then there is your automatic eject button that you can pull to get yourself out of it. And not once did they even try that. So.
No.
Well, I mean, if they're going to try that, what would medical direction have said? What are their vitals? What's the mental status?
What's the blood sugar?
What's the blood sugar? What is going on here?
I can imagine that going to the medical director.
Yeah.
Right? And so, like I'm saying, and this is not, again, a disrespect, this is actually a kudos, but EMT Basic recognizes what needs to be provided to a medical director. So this is, as Mark alluded to, this is something that they know better.
As
ALS, you have to master your basics to be ALS. At least that's what's expected of you. You should know your basics. And if an EMT Basic here is saying that I would call medical direction and provide them with a set of vitals and kind of a picture of the situation, then these medics have no excuse. There's no way they can dig themselves out. Oh, I was too tired. Bullshit. Oh, I didn't call. I didn't. There's no way you can talk yourself out of this situation to make it where they're in the right. So yeah.
And I mean, it can be seen that like, oh, we're being tough on these providers. I will tell you this: I am no more tough on my partner or any other provider than I am myself. I am actually harder on myself more than anyone else, because at the end of the day, that's the care that I'm providing. And the tools that I have in my kit, if I use them improperly, I can kill someone. And you can see they didn't get any vitals. They didn't do any advanced level treatments. Everything that killed this patient was at the sub basic level, not even basic EMT level, basic human level. They are preventing this patient from breathing. They are suffocating this patient, and that is what led to this patient's death.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, this all boils down to, this isn't about us. It doesn't matter if you're getting paid to do this. It doesn't matter if you're a volunteer. The job isn't about you. The job is about the person that calls 911, right? And there's just gross negligence going on. I get that maybe they're volunteers, that they just woke up. That doesn't. Oh boy.
But
Dogs are a little
so
angry,
now that the patient's got now that the patient's now secured, you know, to the point where they can't breathe, and being moved to the ambulance. Listen to what these cops say as they're moving them.
Thanks, apparently. Thanks. Oh, I'm gonna wait till he gets in there. He gets in there. I'll find a way to dead weight off of that thing.
Oh, he's strapped him in good and tight. He ain't going nowhere.
He's strapped in there good and tight. He ain't going nowhere.
We got hand sanitizer.
The emphasis here is that this is a phenomenon known as positional asphyxiation, if you're not familiar with that. And it has been documented and become a very mainstream topic that seems to be now in the forefront of conversation because it's happening more and more. Usually, a lot of times it can be in combination with a patient who's having some kind of excited delirium. So they're having there's medical physiological things that are happening. They're having a massive catecholamine dump and all of these things, and then you're suffocating them or you're preventing them from getting good tidal volumes, breathing in and breathing out, and say if they're and you're increasing acidosis, decreasing tissue perfusion. Ultimately, you're making the situation worse. And there's so many things that we can do to influence a patient morbidity and mortality. And positional asphyxiation is just one of many things. But this particular thing, you see, he's not just applying a little tension. He leans into every single cinch, every single time. And you're really taught, you're supposed to be able to get some gap in between. And I usually, every time I tighten, I put my fingers in between each latch to make sure that I got room, right? And you think about it, backboarding is still considered, depending on if you still use it wherever you're at, that is a splint device. So, and what do they say? PMS before and after. Well,
post-motor sensory PMS. I know we have a lot of acronyms in this.
There's so many
different
abbreviations. Yeah. So, but this closes out the video. And so, final thoughts, gentlemen?
They're getting everything that's coming to them. One provider in the room, mind you, both of them are advanced level providers, disregarding the assessment of the family member who already said that this is an alcohol withdrawal. We just recently moved here, being treated like a frequent flyer, like, oh, this is just a standard ETOH. This patient should stop faking it and stand up and start walking. And then to throw them on the stretcher prone and secure them as if they were going to be combative, like you don't have Versed in your truck if they were to become combative, not having a monitor, not getting baseline set of vitals, and actually assessing this patient who, even if the family member said, oh, this is alcohol withdrawal, and then when you assess the patient, turns out, no, this is a trauma. They fell outside because they were walking, they hit their head on the curb, and now they have a cerebral aneurysm. Like it's unexcusable.
Or stroke.
What do you think?
It could be so many different things. Are we?
So,
what's up, bud?
No, I was just gonna say, just to make a comment on the strapping them down and worrying about being combative. Even if we were worried about this patient being combative, there are so many different tools that you have on your truck to safely, softly restrain a patient that you could feel become combative. Not only do you have law enforcement, and they have handcuffs, We have cravats on our truck, triangular bandages that you can absolutely use in a safe way to softly restrain a patient. I use that term soft restraints because we're technically not allowed to restrain patients, but it happens. Leaving a patient facing down and cranking down on the straps of the stretcher is not a way of safely restraining a patient. It's not safe for you. It's not safe for the patient. It's not safe for anybody. So there's just a lot of gross negligence throughout all of this that you can't make an excuse for. There are no excuses that I can possibly think of in my mind for any of the actions that these paramedics did.
Agreed. And so what I want to point out to everybody in the audience listening, right, is the point of this video is, yes, this is old news in the sense of this is a while ago, as far as
2 years ago.
However, the point is we want to demonstrate and show people that this isn't how everybody is. They are the minority by a long shot. And these bad apples give us pain. Then the general public naturally paints us all with a broad brush and says, this is, oh, we're out here just murdering people. And I understand the public's concern and things like that, because they don't get to obviously see all the opportunities and times where they don't get to see all of the situations where we are doing good and doing right by the patients. And so they, a lot of times we elevate the bad and we dampen the good, it would feel like sometimes. So we want to show you that we will call out our own, and we're not going to sit there complacent and just sit on our hands and allow that. At least there's a lot of us out there that won't, more than there will who just stay silent. But I wanted to touch on just one last thing pertaining to this, right, is when we're talking about when I was telling you about other things, clinical suspicions, differential diagnoses, and stuff like that, if you're in the medical field, there's a number of things this could have been other than alcohol withdrawal that still requires vital signs and assessments. And so the list of things that can mimic
environmental toxins, pneumothorax, hypoxia, ton of things. Sepsis.
So yeah, 100% right on the money. And the point being is, and none of those that he listed were the psych that just requires no monitoring and nothing like that. And how do you confirm or deny psych is the key player if you're not ruling out getting data to support or omit your claim? So some of the things that I can think of, like hepatic encephalopathy, that's going to produce brain dysfunction secondary to alcoholism. What about meningitis, encephalitis? She didn't check a temperature. Never checked a temp. Never did any sort of assessment to look for, Koenig's sign, Brudinski's sign, nuchal rigidity, none of those things to assess if there was any meningeal irritation. What about thyroid toxicosis and thyroid? So nothing addressed there. What about other subacute encephalopathies that can occur? So and that's just some, or like Mark was saying, some overdoses or toxidromes such as tricyclic antidepressants, and the list just continues to go on. And so Wernicke's encephalopathy secondary to thiamine and alcoholism. So none of those were even attempted to rule out. I didn't even see a monitor even on the back of the stretcher, and I may have missed it, but I didn't see that anywhere. It was like they just walked. They couldn't
fit a monitor onto that stretcher because that stretcher wasn't in Fowler's position. It was fully in supine.
So then there you go. So that was my initial suspicion. And so they didn't even bring a monitor to the door to go, okay, well, we were going to put him on when you got out of the house. There was no intention from the start to do. And that's where I think the gross negligence and the high charges that are being asserted on them because of that fact. So
no assessment was done. Throwing prone, which we all say never transport a patient prone. Securing him to the point where he can't breathe, suffocating him, and doing no form of an assessment. If we don't do an assessment and we don't treat a patient, how are we different than a regular Uber driver?
Yeah, exactly. Right. Then we kind of live up to the name there.
To the ambulance driver. We're not ambulance drivers.
Yeah.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I want you all to let us know what you think about this whole shenanigans in the comment section. We want you to like, subscribe, follow along for all of this crazy stuff that we're going to get into. It's going to get hot and heavy, and we're going to be all sorts of different things that we're going to do, but we want to hear from you. We want to hear what you think about this and where your mind's at. Are we way off base here, or are you tracking? But let's talk about our sponsor, Rage. Just kidding, it's not that. So we're going to talk about FlightLine Coffee. Fantastic group of people who are just all about quality versus quantity. You know, a lot of these coffee places out there are all about quantity and just pumping it out instead of actually really dedicating and being perfectionists of their craft. And this is FlightLine Coffee. They are posture towards first responders. They are, you know, they understand what it's like to be at a high stress, fast paced job. And so that's where FlightLine Coffee became what it is today. And so they have all different things from skids up breakfast blend all the way to third degree roast, reference to third degree blocks. If you're not familiar, that's some puns there. And they're freshly roasted, locally owned, based out of Colorado. Good group of people. Go check out their website at flightlinecoffee.shop and put in promo code BTS Flight for 10% off and get yourself some FlightLine coffee.
Looking back at this past video, we have been kind of tough on these providers, and we see things that they could do better, and we can all do better. We're going to talk about this APX Summit that we're going to be putting on, which is a cadaver lab down in Florida. What do we got, Barry?
Yeah, so it's going to be freaking awesome. Like, we are on our second round, and we have just basically gone warp speed, and we are going to go into this full send, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to be a down in good old DeWitt. Florida is going to have a cadaver lab. We're going to have skills. We're going to have lectures. We're going to have a communion, a collective watering hole of ideas and transfer of knowledge from different agencies, different groups. Last time we had 5 different fire departments, a flight team, a helicopter land. It was a blast. This year, we're going to have a virtual experience, a in-person experience. If you're just from a distance and you just can't make it down, you'll be able to watch the whole thing from start to finish online. We're going to have the cadaver there, run by our doc, our medical director, fantastic gentleman, and you will love him and all that he has to offer. We're going to have point-of-care ultrasound with Peter Bonadonna. He's going to be there, and you're going to get hands-on how to do it with live patients, to be able to actually do these skills live, because that's what we really focus on. Hands-on. We're all about hands-on, not death by PowerPoint, not death by fire hose, but actually by hands-on and by doing. That is how we solidify our skills. And the whole point about being an APX clinician is people may argue and say, oh, that is Paragod. No, it's the actual argument against Paragod. We are submitting that as an alternative. Is basically we drop our ego at the door. We are open to new ideas, evidence-based medicine, and letting the science do the talking. Letting instead of being clinging to old, antiquated, archaic protocols, we're open to new ideas and exchange of knowledge and concepts so that we can be better. Because this all of this. If egos get in the way of giving good patient care, if we take our ego and put it to the side, we are able to actually learn new things, grow as clinicians, ultimately downstream effect helps our patients in the long run. That is our goal at APX Clinician Summit. It is the antithesis and the alternative to a Paragod. So we hope you sign up. It's on Eventbrite. Link and will be in the description to sign up for either the virtual or the in-person. We hope to see you there and hang out with us. We never say we teach you. We learn alongside each other. We are learning together. So we hope to have you there for the APX Clinician Summit 2025 at DeWitt, Florida in February 8th, 2025.
Definitely, guys. Definitely join us. So I'm going to be heading the whole virtual portion of that convention. We're going to make it so that even if you are far, far away, you are behind that computer screen, you're going to get the knowledge, the education that you need to do. You're going to get a front row seat to most of those skills that we do. And eventually, hopefully, we're going to get some CEs on board as well. Saying, oh, that's the way we've always done it, or this is the way to do things. We check that at the door. We come in, we learn, and maybe we bring home and the new way of doing things. In the past, we used to always say, "Oh, levo, leave them dead." We moved on from that, and now levo is one of our main pressors we use. Things change in the clinical world. Things are always changing, and that's why we always educate. We learn on the new ways, new protocols. We have our doctor there. He's on standby. He's going to be doing things. And Evan over here, he's going to be focusing on safety, and we're going to be doing a lot of outlandish and interesting education as well.
Yeah, so we can't give it all away because then that would just take away the surprise. But there's some really cool things, new additions to the conference, to the summit that we are putting together. And as we mentioned, we are all about checking our ego at the door and being humble, because truly that is where the learning can take place. That is where we can be better clinicians for our patients, because a lot of the times we find ourselves in ego battles with ourselves, ego battles with clinicians on scene, and we never want to let ourselves just go, you know what, maybe I don't know everything. Maybe the other person's suggestion is not the worst thing possible for this patient. And in fact, it's just as equally beneficial, and letting it go, being able to go, you know what, this is still equally as beneficial for the patient. And so that should be all that matters. What's the best for the patient? Not because it was your idea. Oh, well, we're not going with my idea, so therefore I'm going to fight it, and this is my hill to die on. That is where egos can affect patient care and cause patient care to ultimately be de-appreciated, and we can actually harm our patients. And that's what we took an oath to defend, is to do no harm. So that's the whole point of the APX Summit. We're going to have a lot of fun. We had a blast last time, and this time we're going to, like I said, we're going to go warp speed. We're going to have a whole new skills station that we're not revealing yet. That's going to be comprised of a nifty techniques of the trade. It's a secret. Yeah, so it's going to be a lot of fun, and we hope that you all get to join us. But join us virtually and see what we're all about, see what we're up to, and then come the following year, because we are staying committed to educating and training and then getting better. So we really want to see how we're doing as educators, so that we can ultimately step up our game, so that we can continue to provide the best quality education and just really learn alongside each other. Because there's some people that can provide even the students can give us so much feedback, and we basically, that's why I like to say we don't necessarily, it's not us necessarily teaching you stuff, we're just providing a location for all of us to come together and exchange knowledge. Yes, we have key things we want to talk about, some key objectives. However, there's been so many times where clinicians come to these different types of things and they teach us a thing or two, and we're so proud of that and happy about that. So come check us out, APX Clinician Summit 2025, or sign up on virtual.
All right.
God, I talk too much.
No, you're fine.
All right, so for this segment, we're going to be going over a movie. It's going to be a blind react. It's going to be Barry's first time seeing this. For a lot of you out there, I'm sure you've seen this movie before. What?
I said I don't know how he has not seen this.
Not in the world.
I'm under a rock.
Yeah, living under a rock. I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen this. It's going to be a scene about kind of how we deal with overdoses in a fun, comedic way. And yeah, take it to you guys.
Yeah. So this is going to be a clip from Bringing Out the Dead. It's a popular movie based out of New York for first responders. While yes, sometimes we do face these frequent flyers, it's important that we still care for our patients. As with our last video, you saw that, yeah, there was a frequent flyer, but they did nothing. This clip is going to be showing a comedic and accurate sense of how we treat the situation that's going on. So without further ado,
a quick plug real quick. In this week, if you haven't seen my dark humor video, you should check it out. This really talks about dark humor, its use. Is it positive? Is it actually negative? What is the benefit, if any? And you'll actually get some insight in there, because we do talk about and dive in a little bit into the depths of dark humor and relative to people who do EMS and people who suffer different kinds of trauma. So it's definitely check it up. Click it on the link below, and let's see what we got. I've never seen this before. Oh, okay.
Get the hell out of my way.
That's definitely me on scenes.
Just tell me he's gonna be all right.
No, he did.
We just signed our first
Oh
record
God!
deal.
It's sad because the dark humor is just it's so real. I mean, and I just want everybody to know there's a fine line between dark humor and then completely disrespect and insensitivity and a time and place, right? Knowing the audience, reading the room. However, when you see, death, dying, and destruction and tragedy on a level that is just very hard for people to conceptualize and understand, subconsciously something happens in the brain, and you try to reconcile it and make sense of it, and in turn what comes out of that is dark humor, and it's just, of course, this is this is of course theatrical in its way of conveying it, but it's still very much the truth.
Yeah, and I will also say, so with death and dying, unfortunately, we are not at the liberty to say, oh, they have moved on, they have passed on. We do have to be blunt with some of these family members and explain, their loved one is deceased, they are dead, just so that they understand. Because if you say, oh, they have moved on or they're in a better place, you're like, how do you know? I just saw him this past afternoon. Well, things happen and you move on from there. He did say, no, he's dead. Well, it might be the situation, but you're preparing that family member for that situation.
Yeah, and it's not necessarily even the death, dying, and destruction aspect. That alone can be traumatizing to first responders, but equally as much, for some it may be even worse, is the actual human element where you interact with the family and have to be a part of, even in the periphery of the first time that this person is hearing that their loved one is no longer with or dead or deceased, right? We'll say that to make sure we stay on the right pace here. But that alone, and that there's something to be said about witnessing raw grief, unfiltered, undistilled raw grief, that is very hard for a lot of first responders to really shake, because it is and that alone, just what I'm saying, is a psychological exposure to somebody else's vicarious trauma, to their trauma, is enough to knock you off your axis as well. So that's just something to consider. It's not even just the blood, guts, and gore is what gets you. Sometimes a lot of people's biggest Achilles heel is the actual human element of it.
Yeah. Or even post the pronouncement, it's hard to tell a family member this is going on, and then just to be like, okay, bye. And our usual casual grin is have a nice day. It's you can't tell that to someone. So I've grown to just I've started saying have a better day.
Yeah, it's kind of a tough thing. So, all right, what else we got?
I will say this, showing up on scene as a ALS provider now is yeah, get out of my way.
Get the hell out of my way.
Yeah, there's some accuracy there, 100%.
Please tell me he's gonna be all right.
No, he dead.
You bugging? We just signed our first record deal.
Look, he dead, son. Ain't nothing we can do about it. Come on, Frank, that's it.
What do you mean he's dead?
He's not dead. It's a heroin overdose. Let's break out the Narcan.
He's dead unless you folks want to stop bullshitting me and tell it straight. Then the good Lord willing will try and bring him back.
Broke up with this old lady.
We didn't break up. We were just seeing other
she
people.
Broke his heart.
Shut up, asshole! Nobody asked you. I
was
wrote
talking to you.
This is true as far as situations like this where you get on scene and you have to deal with the interpersonal conflict. And I've had a drug overdose patient very similar to this, but it was on the side of the road, and family members screaming and literally completely inconsolable and just literally not just watching us trying to work this overdose, and they're not medically trained, and so they were just doing CPR. And now all of a sudden we stopped doing CPR because there is a pulse, like in this situation, I'm assuming. So the breathing is stopped, but the pulse is probably present, which is why he probably said, yeah, and he's inferring probably with the area and location that they're at, which is, it's not prejudice or bias in that sense. It's helping you draw conclusions to better understand what might be possibly causing this patient situation or their emergency. But what that kind of I'm drawing out of that is while you're trying to working out this situation with your partner and getting this taken care of, you actually end up having to deal with contend with the interpersonal conflicts of the patient's loved ones, family members, friends on scene that may be hysterical, freaking out, and causing a added pressure and stress on you to try to think clearly and all of that. So that there's that added extra to that.
And there's another saying that we always say is, lie to the cops, tell the paramedics everything. We're not worried about what drugs we are worried about what drugs, but we're not worried about the fact that you took drugs. We'd rather know what they are so we can treat you. We're not going to get you in trouble. We're not going to tell the cops what's going on. Tell us what you took. Tell us what's going on so we can better assess and treat you and get you the care that you need. You're not in trouble. We're going to take you to the hospital. We're trying to make you live. Do you want to get that minor, you wouldn't get in trouble with the cops. So I can't even say, would you want that minor misdemeanor versus dying? Because we don't tell the cops. We can't. It's confidential. HIPAA.
Man here still dead.
You want to leave here in a body bag too?
You end up like him.
Shut up.
Dick. Shut up.
He's been snorting that red death stuff. It's been going on for like 4 days now.
Rebuke the spirit of drugs in the name of Jesus. What's his name?
I be banging.
What you mean I be banging?
That is an interesting method of. But no. So it of course in a real life situation it would not be well. I mean, of course you'd be cool, calm, and collected, but like this here is very delayed. They're not doing any oxygen. It doesn't seem like it's very kind of like just. Somebody help me out with the word here. What am I saying?
Nonchalant, relaxed.
Yeah.
So another thing that these
Casual.
guys are doing is what you end up doing with your long-term partner is you have nonverbal communication. What seems to be the case is they have many people of a younger age. They're trying to not only educate them, but also treat the patient at hand and educate and scare them away from the situation that's going on. They're trying to make him realize that this is a more serious situation than, oh, he's just been taking drugs to relax and we got a record deal because we're rock stars. Drug, sex, rock and roll, right?
Be banging.
What you mean I be banging?
I be banging.
What the hell kind of name is I be banging?
I don't know his real name.
Frederick Smith.
Okay, Freddie.
It's Frederick.
Okay, I be banging. We're going to bring you back from the dead. Now, I want everybody here to grab the hand of the person next to you. Come on now, we ain't got much time.
You always got the delay
Lord,
between
towards the
administration and
heavens.
waking up, right?
Dear Lord, here I am again, asking one more chance for a sinner. Please, Lord.
I can just imagine this on scene.
I be banging.
In the middle of a club in New York City.
Yeah,
night.
just like whatever.
Yeah, hold your hands, bow your heads.
Praise the Lord.
Praise the Lord.
Hallelujah.
You have the power, Jesus. You have the might. You have the super light.
Man, preach, man. Woo.
Man.
Yes, sir.
Rise up, I be banging. And start your life anew, Lord. Oh, thank you, Lord.
What happened?
You fucking died, you stupid bastard. I warned you.
Which is true. That's
Not
I mean
us.
the reaction
first
after
step
they
is
wake
love. The second is mercy.
up. That's 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So yeah, this is where you have the interlaced comedic, theatrical, interlaced with some truth and reality there. There's some things you can kind of go, you as a first responder, you can kind of relate to the subtleties and a little of the things that they were kind of dropping in there. That's like, yeah, that's kind of how in a weird, dramatic way, it's very similar to the real situation. Now, of course, you can sit there and argument to the cows come home, oh, their treatment and all that, but that's not really the point of what I think that, the clip, but I thought it was funny. And, that's how a lot of first responders, we decompress and we find the light in a dark situation is through laughter. And so it's very, obviously, like I said, there's
post call. We're not doing this on scene.
Right,
Like this clip is on scene. We're doing this post.
Yeah, so all of that would not be like, you wouldn't be making cracking jokes. So we want to, a disclaimer, right? Because yes, but outside of that, like when you're at, especially if it's like a young child or young teen who's overdosed and maybe don't get them back, that's sometimes really hard to wrestle with for any first responder. And so there is something psychologically to dark humor if in the right scenario, the right setting, and with the right group of people. It's not saying you go into a crowded mall and you make some crass joke, because that would probably get you looked at very cockeyed. However, there is a place, I believe, and I stand by it, for dark humor in the right setting, right time, right place, kind of thing. It's almost like the 5 R's that you do for drugs. So you got to, the 5 R's for dark humor, make sure you deploy it at the right time. But yeah, that was funny. I've never seen this movie ever. And as a first responder, apparently that is a cardinal sin. And I done screwed up big time because everybody else seen it.
It sounds like this movie is going to be in our next movie night for our Beyond the Sirens community out in Discord. How do you feel, Barry?
Speaking of that, we have this Discord community that Mark kind of Mike dropped in there, and that is where we have a community of first responders and students. We opened it up to students as well. So if you're a medic student, you're an EMT student, you're a police officer in the academy, you're a firefighter in the academy, you are welcome to come and join. And the link will be in the description on how to get in. And we hang out, we do movie nights, we do education, and guess what? Everybody loves the word free, because it is all free.
Por gratis.
Yeah, right. Because
that's for me.
We
Pro
believe,
bono.
right? Whatever he just said. So that guy. So we're going to, have a lot of fun in in the community. We do, in fact, we do education nights, we do movie nights, game nights, in just times where we just kind of hang out. We also have a little special thing in there that I think is very unique to different Discord groups, and that's called the crisis rooms and debrief rooms. And what that means is we've got mental health resiliency officers who have not only MHRO but also psychological trauma for EMS providers as well, and just good-hearted first responders who want to be able to be there for you during difficult times. We're not taking place of psychologists, psychiatrists, or mental health counselors. Rather, we are the bridge. So if you have a difficult call or you just need somebody to lean on, we know, at least I've found, that leaning on somebody who understands what you've gone through or at least had similar experiences, that opens a door for discussion, dialogue, to be able to talk about things with somebody who might feel like will understand your circumstances, situations. Where one of the biggest things and deterrents for first responders to seek mental health care is a number of things, but one of them being, how could that person ever understand what it's like to see X, Y, or Z? And so therefore they don't even seek the care. That's why we put this in place, so that you can talk with those people who've been there alongside you in those circumstances, similarly speaking, and can help you navigate this and ultimately maybe act as that middleman to getting you to the right resources that best suit you. So come join us at the Beyond the Sirens community. It's all about just connecting with each other, being able to be your true self as a first responder, and have a good time and hang out with your fellow brothers and sisters. So click the link below down in the description to join the Beyond the Sirens community.
Whoop, whoop. I think that's all I have. Does anyone else have anything to note?
Everybody just, stay safe,
Yeah, we appreciate everybody for being on this podcast, and we look forward to having you. This one's kind of impromptu, getting the gears greased up for the next adventures. So we just wanted to throw something together to introduce the official Out of Service podcast brought to you. We're gonna do game nights where we're just shooting the shit, and we're having a good old time. Depending on, if you're a Halo fanatic, if you're a whatever
Call
games that you like, Call of Duty, then we're on it, man. And so we hope to like, subscribe, follow to our shenanigans. We hope to have you along for the journey where we can not only form this relationships with all of our first responders and community out there, but help push a different narrative, flip the script on stigma, destigmatizing these stereotypes against mental health with first responders, and help build a relationship between the public and our first responders at large. So, ladies and gentlemen, with that being it, I bid you adieu, and thank you to all the co-hosts on this podcast. We will see you on the next one. We're going to go 10-7 out of service. Wait, we're already out of service.
We're
going to
already
go
out of service.
with
Out
the
of service. Out of service.
out of service. And we'll see you on the next one, ladies and gentlemen.
Cheers.
Cheers.